Hey Rebel Rouser, I'm Alan Voivod and this is Star Wars 7x7. We're at episode number 1752 today, and thank you so much for joining me for it. Today we're going to be talking about Rey's parents because J.J. Abrams couldn't leave well enough alone, as it turns out. After Star Wars Celebration Chicago, at least after the Rise of Skywalker panel that took place on Friday, JJ did a number of interviews. One of them was with ABC News and with reporter Paula Ferris, where he talked about things like code names in the production and other assorted topics and whatnot. But Paula asked him about Rey's parents and whether we would find out who Rey's parents are. Now, naturally, he did not really give 100%, straight up answer about it, but he essentially did say that we are going to find out something more than what we already know. So there are kind of three parts to his answer in this regard, and we can take them one part at a time. One of the things that he talks about is that there needs to be a quote-unquote satisfying conclusion. And in all honesty, that's a line that has come up not just about this particular topic, but about the movie in general, and all the conversations about how it has to be the conclusion of the sequel trilogy. It's the conclusion of a 9-movie cycle happening across 42 years, and it also has to be a movie that stands on its own. So this idea of a satisfying conclusion, well, it doesn't just apply to the question of Rey's parents, even though that certainly seems to be something that was on J.J. Abrams' mind as he approached this movie. But it also applies to the entirety of the story as well. So, yeah, that's something that he was having to shoot for no matter what. Now, one of the things that obviously gets hotly discussed is the question of the decision to make Rey's parents quote-unquote nobodies, and whether Ben Solo, aka Kylo Ren, might have been gaslighting Rey in The Last Jedi and telling her the truth about the fact that her parents were filthy junk traders who sold her for drinking money. So J.J. Abrams essentially addressed that by saying that we're going to honor what happened in Episode 8. And so for our purposes, what you can read that to mean is that Rey's parents are going to continue to be quote-unquote nobodies. In other words, that it's not going to turn out that she's a Skywalker after all, that she is not part of this lineage, which makes sense because if this is supposed to be the end of the Skywalker saga, then she can't be a Skywalker, right? Because anytime she would appear in another movie, she's a Skywalker, and suddenly we are in a Skywalker movie. So just logically speaking, it seems like that's an impossibility. She cannot be a Skywalker, okay? So just let's put that out there for discussion. You are more than welcome to hit me up wherever you catch this episode that has a comments feed, or at home base for the show at sw7x7.com, and tell me if you think differently. But by honoring the idea of Rey as not having Skywalker parents in Episode 8, I think that basically honors Rian Johnson's vision for who the character is. But that's, I think, as far as J.J. Abrams needs to go. It may not turn out that they were filthy junk dealers who traded her for drinking money. And I think that J.J. Abrams can make that call and make a different decision about who her parents are and why they are no longer with Rey in The Force Awakens and, by extension, The Last Jedi, without dishonoring Rian Johnson's choice about Rey's background for The Last Jedi. And that's going to bring us to the third and final part of J.J. Abrams' statement about the question of Rey's parents and their appearance or their, effect on the Rise of Skywalker. And we'll talk about that after the break. Stay tuned. Hey there. If you're enjoying all the coverage that I'm bringing you from Star Wars Celebration and what I do every single day for you at Star Wars 7x7, I hope you'll consider putting something in the tip jar at patreon.com/SW7x7. $1, $3.27, $5.01 or more. Honestly, every little bit helps, and every little bit is just as exciting as every other little bit. Please consider supporting me in the work of delivering Star Wars stories and interviews to you on a daily basis at patreon.com/SW7x7. welcome back. All right, so the third part of J.J. Abrams' statement is that there's more to the story than what we've seen, more to the story of Rey's parents than what we've seen. So, we've had enough experience with J.J. Abrams over the years that I think it's going to be fair to say that what we find out about Rey's parents is going to be something along the lines of that they are decent human beings and that there was some terrible, tragic situation that ultimately separated them from Rey. And I'm saying them, but, we could even go out on a limb and consider the possibility that there is no dad, just like with Anakin Skywalker, and that some crazy dark side user, and maybe it was Palpatine, but it would be really hard to, go to these lengths because this would have had to happen, 11 years after Palpatine's death, to somehow create a situation where Rey was conceived by midichlorians in a random woman somewhere in the galaxy, and that be an explanation for why she is as powerful as she is, because I would say she's probably powerful on a par with where Anakin Skywalker was. At least that's how she's been presented to us. And, that's how Anakin was created, by a whole midichlorian thing. But again, Palpatine dead 11 years, I think it is, by the time Rey would have been born. So, yeah, that seems a little sketchy. But that being said, rolling back to the point of Rey's parents and, how J.J. Abrams operates, I think ultimately that's what we're going to find out, that they are just decent human beings who were forced into some situation completely out of their control, and that they are living with a terrible stain of regret and the terrible weight of regret on themselves for what happened and for the fact that they've been separated from their baby girl for so long. And again, I'd love to hear what you think about that situation. So by all means, wherever you happen to catch this, drop a comment in or drop a comment at sw7x7.com and let me know what you think. And that is going to do it for today's episode of the show. Thank you so much for joining me for it, as always. If you're not a subscriber, don't forget you can subscribe for free to the podcast. So, it doesn't cost you a thing. It's not like a Netflix service or anything like that. Just subscribing wherever you like to catch podcasts, at least the audio versions, right? Subscribing on YouTube is free, right? All that fun stuff. But if you think it's worth it, if you think it's worth dropping something in the tip jar like I mentioned in our little break there, then by all means, I hope you'll consider supporting me at patreon.com/SW7x7. And yeah, that's it. So thank you so much for joining me as always, and may the Force be with you wherever in the world you may be.
This podcast is not endorsed or sponsored yet by Lucasfilm Limited, Disney, or 20th Century Fox. It is intended for entertainment and information purposes only. Star Wars, the Star Wars logo, all names and pictures of Star Wars characters, vehicles, and any other related Star Wars items are registered trademarks and/or copyrights of Lucasfilm Limited or their respective trademark and copyright holders. May the Force be with them. All original content is copyright 2019 by Star Wars 7x7. We hope you love it.